if President Obama had done nothing when he took office, he'd be a genius today.
Can I say that this is again why we need to occupy Wall Street? Because, from my point of view, and I've said this many times, people like Steve are recapitulating 80-year-old economic fallacies. They're hijacking this whole discussion on the eve of the greatest failure of those conservative policies that we could possibly imagine, somehow making the case that the problem was that we weren't conservative enough. But because of the way our normal discussion is structured, because of who has access to megaphones, because of who ends up dominating debates in Congress, the other side, we said, hey, wait, the problem is not that we're doing too much. The problem is that we're not doing enough. Got practically squeezed out of the debate. And thank God, a ragtag group of protesters down on Zacaria Park and elsewhere have made us go back to saying, hey, wait, what is the problem here? Shouldn't we be doing more?
Massive government spending ever revived the economy in peacetime?
Why does a war make a difference? What we do know is the cuts in government spending.
World War II was revived by government spending?
Yes.
When 12 million veterans are taken out of the workforce, and after the war we cut spending.
Boy, do you really want to make this program about something else? You want to have the argument, but as I see it, actually, there's been a sustained set of economic policies these past 2 years on the whole question of stimulus, austerity. Particularly austerity, does cutting government spending actually have an expansionary effect? The International Monetary Fund has done a series of careful studies, and it's been overwhelming. The world works the way a Keynesian analysis says it should, not when.
Answer Brett's question about Japan, because Japan did have a massive round of infrastructure.
They dribbled it out. They dribbled it out in stages. If you actually look at the year by year, you discover that the years when Japan ramped up the spending, their economy started to grow, then they pulled back, and the economy sank again. If you go through the actual history, sort of run the tape on Japan, what you find is a strong confirmation that actually increases in government spending do lead to economic growth, and when they happen.
So the basic problem also you have, even accepting the idea that stimulus money, in theory, could, just for the sake of argument, could revive the economy. How exactly is that stimulus money spent? Economists have looked at why this stimulus failed, and they figured out that government doesn't have a very good idea of where to spend the money. So you have cases like Solyndra, another classic case of political allocation of capital, where, gee, this seems like a good idea. Solar power is the, energy of the future. And now you're looking at a series of successive failures in this huge investment in so-called green technologies, which could have been predicted were going to be failures. The real problem is you don't know where the jobs of the future are going to come from. You talked about school teachers and so on. Yes, we'll have school teachers in the future, but who's the next Steve Jobs of the American economy? You have no idea.
Stimulus spending isn't about betting on the next Steve Jobs. Stimulus spending is about, do you believe that you need to kickstart the economy in times of recession, especially after a financial crisis?
And did the stimulus kickstart the economy?
Well, the question is, you have to think about what would the case be had there been no stimulus. You can't say, okay, the economy isn't perfect, so the stimulus failed.
$850 billion of misallocated capital.
No, Fareed was exactly right. You would have had more people unemployed. And the jobs in the middle are the ones being hollowed out. And the place where we're seeing jobs created are at the very top, Steve Jobs, Silicon Valley, great to be a software engineer. And at the bottom, not so bad to work in a kitchen, to be a gardener. But what about the middle-class jobs that are really the backbone of the America that I think Steve yearns for?
Well, in the 1980s, you had the same kind of criticism of the Reagan boom. That all the middle class is going to disappear. Turns out that during that period and subsequently, we had 40 million new jobs created from top to bottom, whole new industries created, and Brett is exactly right. In industries we couldn't have even imagined grow up. Who could have imagined iPod 12 years ago? If you said that, they would have thought remaking it. The iPod is basically